All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. Happy New Year, wherever you are. Best wishes for 2023. So good to have you. Welcome to our Digital Marketing 360 webinar. This is a conversation that we have with those who are interested in moving their digital needle forward. We try to do this every month. So feel free to subscribe to wherever you signed up for. I think we do have Eventbrite. You can subscribe or follow us there to know about upcoming events. Today, we're actually featuring one of our colleagues and one of our experts, and she has been spending some great amount of time in with emails, and I wanted to tell you about her, but most importantly, she will tell you a little bit more about herself. And I'm speaking of no other than Valerie Kay. Valerie Kay is an email marketing specialist who's been working with a number of email marketing programs and folks who want to establish a good footing, if you may, on email marketing. And we know how important email marketing is. If you're ever doing any kind of marketing and you're not doing email marketing, then it might be something that you want to check. But I'll let her speak to that. So I'd love to introduce you to Valerie Kay, and she's going to be talking about strategies and tactics that we can actually implement in 2023 in terms of trends for email. And so without further ado, Valerie, I want to turn it over to you. And we'll be able to take questions. If you've got questions for Valerie, please put them in the chat. We'll address those at the end of her presentation. So Valerie, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Thanks, Ricardo, and thank you for that introduction. Hi, everybody. I am Valerie, Valerie Kay Email Marketing. That's a small business that I started back in 2020. Our focus is to help my clients to develop their email marketing strategy. I help to design their newsletters. I also help to build out templates. I help to QA, write content for emails, test emails, as well as A/B tests, and schedule and deploy those email campaigns. So I have a few email marketing trends that I want to speak about this afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. I'm based in New York. It's a really rainy, gloomy, not so sunny day outside, and it's a little chilly, but we power through, right? It's a new year, new us. So I want to give a little bit of information about email marketing to start off with. So about 4 billion people use email on the daily basis, and that number is expected to continue to grow and climb in 2023 and in 2025. So because all these people are using their emails, it's really important as business owners to make sure that you have a solid email strategy. Every day, 99% of email users check their inbox. Some people, like me, they check their inbox up to 20 times per day, right? You get that ping, you get that notification from Gmail or AOL or Hotmail or Outlook that tells you, you got a special deal, or maybe it's a work-related email, maybe it's a loved one reaching out. People are checking their emails constantly on their mobile devices and on their desktop computers or laptops. A lot of email marketers would rather give up social media in place of email marketing because email marketing is more personalized, it's more personable, and you can talk directly to your clients or to your audience in that way, in a way that you can in social media, right? In social media, you have a timeline, so you're seeing everybody's information, everybody's opinion on your feed instead of focusing in on one product or one person's voice. So I just want to kind of put those things into perspective. And the last point I want to bring up is in 2020, email marketing globally was valued at about $7.5 billion, and that is projected to rise to $17.9 billion in 2027. A lot of statistics I'm throwing at you, a lot of big numbers. This is information that I was pulled from Statistica.com, as well as other blogs and information from different websites of email marketers experts. So just letting everybody know, email marketing is a very, very, very valuable platform and a very valuable tool. So let's continue to make sure we're utilizing it in 2023. In terms of the benefits of email marketing, I have a few of those to share with you all. So first and foremost, email marketing, it's simple to use. In most cases, you can get started for free. There are a lot of email providers out there like Klaviyo, like HubSpot, like Constant Contact, OmniSend, so many. Ricardo, I know you're familiar with several of those, but there are a lot of tools out there that can help you to get started, even if you don't know how to code, even if you're not sure how to segment or send an email. All of that stuff is out there and ready for you to use. All you have to do is get started. Um, and since people can access their email accounts at any time, they can also easily click and buy products. So that means that email can produce an instant impact, right? So you want to make sure we're keeping all this in mind as the year progresses through. So let's get into some of these trends that we're going to see in 2023. I have 5 and then a bonus trend, and then I'll be happy to take some questions. So trend number 1 is user-generated content. So that means and refers to customer testimonials, customer testimonials or reviews of your business's products or your services. It spices up your communication and it gives your audience different points of view. So for example, let's say I own a cupcake business, and some of my customers wrote me in on and tagged me on social media and left some feedback and say, Valerie, these are the best cupcakes I've ever eaten in my entire life. I can then take that compliment or that review, put it into an email, and target that email to send to prospect clients or other folks who just happen to be on my mailing list. That'll show them that, hey, there's a real person who's actually eating Valerie's cupcakes, and maybe I should try that cupcake. The same can be said about folks who leave a positive review on Yelp, or even I think Google Maps has an area now where you can leave 5 stars, 4 stars. You want to focus in on the good reviews, stay away from the bad reviews, but usually it's easy for you to repurpose a lot of those Google reviews, those Yelp reviews, and those positive reviews on social media. Even if someone gives you a long form email, a lot of times when people really feel like a business has done a spectacular job or they were really satisfied with the product, they'll write a really long testimonial email or testimonial letter that business owner can repurpose and kind of gives their business more credit to let them know that, hey, we're a valuable business. You want to do business with us. So user-generated content is going to be great. This also goes for pictures. So again, if I'm selling that cupcake, if I'm running a cupcake business and someone buys my cupcake and they take a really cool picture on social media, they tag me in that photo. If I have their permission, I can repurpose that photo, use it in my emails, again, to show my customer base that, hey, somebody loves my cupcakes. Maybe that person looks like that person in the audience. Maybe they, really like the sprinkles that were on that cupcake, and it's going to make them want to do business with me. So just throwing that out there, something to look forward to in 2023. The next trend that we're seeing is segmentation. That's something that we've always been using, segmentation. If you don't know what segmentation is, this refers to basically organizing your audience, everybody that's on your email list, into different categories. So you can break people down based on their demographics, such as their age or their location or their occupation. And then you can kind of go into micro segmentation, which should be available through your email service provider. And that's when you get even more specific. And that's where you're able to see, okay, this person has a history of traveling, or, they have a history of purchasing things in the morning time. You can categorize and make lists specifically for these particular people and then send emails to them that speaks directly to them in a way that a general email would not. So segmenting, taking that to the next level with micro segmenting, is going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of in 2023. So just remember, you can organize these lists based on location, where their home is, where their office is, if they go to Starbucks often, if you're able to see that data. A lot of that will be information that's gathered through data analytics or things that's gathered in your email service provider. You can figure out, how do they open emails? Do they open a lot of their emails on their phone? Do they open it, on their desktop, on their tablet, on their laptop? You can use that information and target those folks specifically. All right. And I do want to add that segmented emails perform a lot better than those non-segmented email campaigns. So keep that in mind the next time you decide to send an email. My third trend is going to be email personalization. So that's something that we've seen for years and years and years in email marketing. How long have I been in email marketing? I'm going to say roughly about 5 years. Kind of a long time, kind of not a long term. I've got a lot to learn. But one thing that I know for sure is that email personalization is something that only continues to be popular in 2023. Something as simple as adding a person's name to a subject line can significantly increase revenue. People like seeing Valerie, last chance to buy that new Tesla. Valerie, we've got a free offer for you. If I see my name in my inbox and it's a subject line, my eyes are automatically drawn to it. I want to click it. I want to open it. I want to see what offer is specifically for me. Now, being an email marketing person, I know it's not just for me. I know everybody's getting the same email, but the average everyday person isn't aware of that. So they feel super special and they feel like they're valued and they're going to want to interact and engage with that email. One thing that I do want to add is you don't have to just add someone's name into the subject line. You can also add it into the opening greeting in the email. And Ricardo, I know we work together on a lot of emails, and that's something that we've done in a lot of our email campaigns is we've added that, hey, Valerie, or hey, Ricardo, within that opening greeting, kind of like writing a letter, making the email seem more like you're writing a letter to an old friend. It builds a rapport within the business and the audience, and it makes that person feel special all over again. So hyper personalization would be recommending products or content based on the demographics of a person. So if they live in Texas, or if they live in New Jersey, or if they live in California, you can speak to them in a way that only people in those locations would understand. If they are of a certain age, you can speak to them in a certain language, or maybe use certain imagery to really resonate with them. Or you might even want to think about using a particular joke or some type of a funny intro line to really get them to engage with your content. And when it also comes to email personalization, if you have the analytics and you have the algorithms within your email service provider, you can actually keep track of what someone has viewed on your website, and kind of funnel that information and recommend products, recommend services based off of what that person has viewed on your website. Again, that's something that's kind of done in your ESP. You have to make sure that your email service provider has those capabilities, but it's a great tool. And if someone has already looked and researched a product they didn't buy, and then you add it into an email, they're more likely to purchase it because they're seeing it again. It's going to trigger something within them and make them want to purchase. Okay, so we've covered three trends, excuse me. Our fourth trend is going to be attractive email design. So gone are the days of just a plain old boring white email. These days, we're seeing more sophisticated, more advanced images, more sophisticated and more advanced graphics. Of course, we see a lot of GIFs in emails, and that's only going to continue into 2023. Now, this is one of my favorite trends because I am a very visual person and I love color. I love, fun. I love moving parts and moving pieces, especially in email. And, that's going to be a trend for 2023 in terms of newsletters. You should have a solid content strategy for your emails, and then you just use your attractive design to reel in those customers, bring in those colors, bring in those GIFs, bring in something that's really interactive, like a poll or like a moving logo or something that changes colors, whether when someone kind of hovers their finger or hovers their mouse over a button, it changes from red to blue. Something like that is going to keep your audience members' attention for a lot longer, and they're more likely to make a purchase or read your blog or listen to your podcast, what have you, if you can keep their attention a little bit longer. You also want to make sure that you're using web-safe fonts. Some of those fonts that I'm talking about would be like a Comic Sans, a Helvetica, a Times New Roman. Those are web-safe fonts, meaning that if someone's using an older email provider like in AOL or in Hotmail, I know a lot of people still use those, but the thing is, because it's kind of an older technology, it's harder for them to kind of take in new fonts, fancy fonts, fancy graphics that a lot of people put in emails. So you want to make sure that your fonts do appear and they do work in every email client before you actually deploy an email campaign. You can make sure that this works by testing your emails before you send them out. If you have an email service provider, you can preview those emails as simple as just, hovering over and clicking and seeing what it looks like. Dark mode is something that's actually become more popular in 2022, and we'll see that continue to grow in 2023. Dark mode, if you don't know, just refers to like the black background screen instead of a white background screen on a mobile device. So I am an iPhone user, and I know that it's something that I use on my phone, dark mode. Supposedly it's better for your eyes. I think the white screen creates a lot of strain in our eyes. So if you change your settings in your phone to dark mode, then that's supposed to be easier on the eyes. And a lot of people are using that more and more, so you want to make sure that your emails look good, whether someone's using dark mode or they're still using the regular white mode. All right, I've got one more tip, and then I'll be ready to take some questions or have some conversation here. My last tip is something that we used in 2022, and it's optimizing for mobile devices. As I just spoke about, dark mode, opening emails on cell phones, that's only going to continue to grow in 2023. So you want to make sure that our emails look good on the mobile devices. In 2022, we saw that half of all email users were opening emails on their mobile devices. So you want to make sure that you have those attractive email designs on mobile. So you want to make sure that they're flawless. A picture shouldn't be super stretched out or too small. A button shouldn't be super stretched out or too wide. It has to be perfect so that you don't lose your audience members' attention. You also want to make sure that if you are using some type of a fancy GIF or some type of a fun hover effect, you want to make sure that it's working on mobile devices. And you can test this out in your email service provider. Just go through, click, test it out, send it to your phone, send it to your tablet, send it to your MacBook or your Dell, and make sure it's all working. Also, you want to make sure that your text isn't too long in your mobile view as well. So that brings us to our last tip. Kind of went through that pretty quickly, Ricardo. I don't know if that was too fast or too slow.
No, I think that was great. I mean, maybe we can just do a quick list rundown again on the fives. I remember you mentioned about personalization as one of the trend. You just talked about mobile, so it's just kind of mobile responsiveness. How does your email look on a mobile device, regardless of the mobile device? Like, is it looking good for the end user? So that's an important thing that you want to always test. You talked about just design, right? In terms of just sort of the look and feel of your email. Have you really sort of checked the color designs, the colors you're using, the way those colors emit certain personality or certain moods, right? I think those are absolutely important. You also refer to segmentation, if I'm getting it right. So there's segmentation in terms of, I've got a list of contacts, but they're all different people, maybe from different locations. Maybe they're a different age group, or maybe they purchased different kinds of products. However, you can find opportunities to segment. You talk about that. I like to do one thing which is called segmentation optimization, or segmenting optimization, right? Where you optimize the segment. So every quarter or every month, you're looking at different segments that you have and say, okay, micro segment, which is something that you just talked about. I thought that was an interesting term. So that how do we just kind of create segments from segments? And I don't know any email marketing software that prevents you from having as many segments as you want, right? So I think with that feature, that option, you could do a lot with segmentation, because segmenting is beautiful because it really helps to promote personalization in a way where that, okay, these are people who are constantly coming into our webinars, for example, or these are people who are on the West Coast, or these are people who are from this country, and so forth and so on. And the deeper you can go in segmentation, the more personalized your email feels. You also talk about that sort of just kind of calling folks by their name, making your email sound not salesy, not corporate-y. People are able to spot those things from a mile away. So you really want to just have conversation like you would have sitting at a coffee bar or a cafe, you and your colleagues. Hey, what's going on, whatever, and just kind of keep that tone keep that tone appropriate, right? So
Right.
it's kind of to each his own. So it sounded like I hit the 5. I don't know if I missed one, but
I think you did. You hit them. I think the last one was the user generated content. So we talked about getting
yes,
those testimonials and reviews and using
yes.
that and repurposing that for your email. That's also a big one. And I also have one bonus one, a bonus tip, if you will, um, in terms of what's going to be a trend for email 2023. And that's going to be customer appreciation emails. So people love to be, talked to directly. We talked about that in personalization. But when it comes to birthday emails or just sending that customer appreciation email, that's going to be going to be in great demand in 2023. And it's going to be an essential part of a company's financial success, right? You can use customer appreciation emails to connect with prospects, to offer assistance, to establish that emotional connection, and then also you can gain the trust and increase engagement, inspire loyalty. Giving out good vibes, all this stuff's going to be important in 2023 as well.
Yeah, awesome. And we have a question
Oh, cool.
from Sam. Says he's a junior email marketer and copywriter, and is wants to know how can he come up with ideas on writing. And he's been in the he's been in creative while writing, at least, and when he writes, he wants to feel he feels that his mind is locked up and can't open up to expanding his email. What's your response to something like that? Where do we get inspiration and ideas from?
Yeah, this is a good question. Sam, personally, sometimes I hit the same wall, right? A lot of times when you keep writing a lot of emails, you might just kind of tune off or lose your mojo, I say. But I think looking in your own email inbox and looking at what other people have written can be very inspirational. I'm not sure if you're an avid reader, but sometimes just reading books sometimes can spark interest and give you some inspiration. And then lastly, I would say, sometimes just getting anything on paper is better than nothing. So, you can get it out on paper, come back to it the next day, or maybe even a few hours later if you're able to step away, look at it, tweak it, and put it out there, right? With emails, it's not like a book, it's not like a blog, it's not like it's going to be stored permanently. Usually it's a recurring thing that you can kind of change and refresh every day, or depending on how often you're sending your emails. So try not to be too hard on yourself in terms of your writing quality when it comes to email. And then also, oh, I have another question here. It says, I read a lot of books on my Kindle. Do you recommend any specific books? I'm reading a lot of different things in my own personal life, but I do recommend listening to email marketing podcasts or reading email marketing books that give you tips and strategies in terms of copywriting and what can be helpful to you. I don't know of any particular books, but I know that there's a lot of literature out there that can help with that. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
I
people
mean,
on social media as well who are email marketing experts that I follow. My handle is Valerie K Email Marketing, and yeah, I follow quite a few email marketing experts, and they give me a lot of inspiration. So use social media.
Yeah, and there are a few email marketing books. There's an email marketing book I was just kind of looking over on my library here, but there's an email marketing book that I think I'd gotten it, Entrepreneurs. I don't know if you're familiar with the portal entrepreneurs.com, but they do have a lot of content for entrepreneurs or for people who are really starting out on their own. It might be a good source to look at. So you go to entrepreneurs.com and maybe you can find under the category of email marketing, you have a lot of expert advice. I love to dive into those kinds of resources, whether it's entrepreneur.com, whether it's businessinsider.com. These are spaces where Forbes as well, they provide guest columns or experts that are part of a community to write about these different things. And so if email marketing and copywriting is something that you struggle with, then essentially you can just really lean into some of those. I love those resources sometimes over books, because a book could have been written in 2015, and like, you know, we're like 7 years now into the future, and it's like, wow, well, maybe the information in that book is not as relevant to me today as an article that I would read. So I really love to keep up like that. And like, as you say, go to social media. You can also kind of look, YouTube is a great resource. I mean, who doesn't use YouTube, right?
Yes.
So you can go to YouTube and just kind of look at that. One thing that I wanted to to talk about was some of the newer things that are happening in terms of technology, and how do we kind of integrate those. So for example, artificial intelligence, and sort of what's the role of artificial intelligence in email marketing? What do you think that role is for the next couple of years coming up?
Ooh, this is a good question. And I recently learned about, it's like the end of 2022, I learned about, I think it's called Chat GPT, which is supposed to be like a new artificial intelligence that can write essays, probably write emails, generate content, answer basically any question, create even algorithms and all that kind of stuff. I'm very curious as into what direction we go in terms of email marketing and artificial intelligence, because there still has to be like a human component of writing something to speak directly to an audience. Um, I think that we'll see some advancements in terms of like creating those recommended products, or maybe in segmentation, it'll be a lot easier to segment out using artificial intelligence, folks, depending on what they bought, their location, when they access email, so on and so forth. So I don't know, Ricardo, what do you think? Where do you think email marketing is going to go in terms of um, artificial intelligence this year and the future?
Yeah, and I mean, that's very interesting, right? I think Chat GTP is a very interesting tool that recently came out. From what I've been learning, it's within 5 days they had like 1 million subscribers, right? And that
Yeah.
was sort of like a record on the internet, because I think who had the record? It was probably TikTok that had the record, that had 1 million users within 4 months, if I'm not mistaken, but they were able to do
Mhm.
it within 5 days. And we heard of things like Clubhouse, and Clubhouse was sort of a social audio that came, and it had this big hype, and then it just kind of went
Yeah.
away in the background, right? I mean, I was on Clubhouse, I went to check it out, and then realized that this is just too much, and then I just kind of backed off. And so
Yeah.
were a lot of other people, right? But as you think about the role of artificial intelligence, you've got to understand what artificial intelligence really is, and how that could potentially support what you do as an entrepreneur, or as a marketer, as a email marketer, or email specialist, etc. And I think if you fundamentally understand what the artificial intelligence community is trying to do, that technology is really trying to provide support. Now, I've used Chat GPT. I mean, I was literally into a training session with some of my team a few days before the holiday, and we were just kind of really going over Chat GPT. Like, I've built a bunch of processes using Chat GPT just out of curiosity. I've gone into Chat GPT and literally sort of helped some of my sales guys to understand, okay, so what are some of the top sales templates that are going out there these days? So you can really, if you know how to use something like this tool, it could really aid you, as opposed to maybe some people think that, oh my God, this is going to replace me because I'm a copywriter, I'm an email marketer. But
Yeah.
what can you really do if you're a copywriter? You go into Chat GPT, maybe it can actually help you to understand what are people writing about. I think the question that you asked earlier, Sam, which is sort of, where do I get these ideas? I would probably go into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT this kind of question, like, what are some other top ideas that people are writing about today, right? Or I know ChatGPT has content all the way back to 2021, so it's still sort of a couple months old, right? In terms of the delay, it's not very current. but there's still a lot of relevant information that people are continuing to reuse. So the role of artificial intelligence is going to be very present in email marketing. I believe in marketing in general, I think artificial intelligence is going to play a role. It's for us as smart marketers to then figure out how do we use those tools as an aid, right? To really help us to do things. So we currently use email marketing software to help us to deliver emails. I mean, and outside of just a regular email marketing software, you've got email deliverability tool, you've got spam tools, you've got all of these different tools, hygiene tools, you've got all kinds of different tools that support the entire mission of email marketing, if you may, right? So I think artificial intelligence is going to just be one of those other tools that you can access, and you can tap into that resource. When you have the ability to say to an artificial intelligence portal like ChatGPT, like, hey, how do I write a great email for upcoming shopping season or for a specific time? What's the top personalized templates that you have to know what to ask, because it's not going to tell you how to do your job, but it can give you ideas how you can get inspired. So we take those kinds of templates, we take what ChatGPT is saying that these are the top things that people typically are having problems with, and then you can learn from that and expound on that. So I think that's kind of an example of how we can use email marketing and AI together to really help you to improve and grow your email marketing program. So that would be my response. And just kind of looking back and just kind of seeing, so, you know, I personally just sort of, how do I think about email marketing? And if I think about it all the way from, okay, so let's look at the genesis of it, right? You can't really have any email marketing success unless you have people to talk to. And it's like, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of hard to be in a room and just talking to empty chairs. I mean, that's not the program, right? So what you really want with email, you want an audience, and you need to think about, how do we generate an audience? I need a database. I need a database with email contacts so that I can reach out to and I can contact. There are several different options. Like, people buy email lists. And people use that, and it, you know, it's hard to tell for every individual industry or sector that this purchasing email addresses works. So for some people it might, for others it might not. I can personally tell you that we are a part of like a large database pool of consumers and businesses across the country. So we do have access to these different kinds of emails and so forth, but you can tap into. But the most, I suppose I would say, profitable, feasible way to generate email is doing it organically, not to pay someone for a list, because you really don't know anything about those people on the list, and they don't know you. And you can increase, you know, your spam rate can go up, and your deliverability rate, you know, you can get flagged. And there's how many times have you checked your inbox and you have emails in there that you've never signed up for? You don't know who it is. You don't know how they even got your information, but they're calling you by your name, and they're selling you all kinds of stuff. And how many of us have experienced it? And I promise you, probably all of us, if you have an email address and you are using it, which is the purpose of your email address, you are going to start getting these kinds of mails. People are going to start reaching out to you, and that's what it is. But how do you generate contacts, meaningful contacts to communicate to? I think when I started doing it 10, 12 years ago, we created pages that were interested to people, like just literally web pages that people had interest in. And we really sort of created multiple pages based on topics. So the question of the day is like, what are people interested in these days? Like, what's trending out there? And you really understand that in reference to your industry. So if you're in e-commerce, it's like, what are people buying? Like, you can go to Google, you can go look at some research and see what are some of the trends. Create a web page, and maybe just have some blogs talk about those kinds of stuff. I see a lot of big trends in search now, like best restaurants and, you know, best costume or best shoes, and the best word best is coming up a lot. And it's very strategic, right? Because what happened when people are looking for the best? They're starting to find these pages that are like blog pages and pages that have these little snippets on there. And once you load those pages, once you land on those pages, one of the first thing that you're asked, if it's done right, one of the first thing that these guys ask you is to sign up for email. Yeah. And this is how they begin to generate email database, right? So if this is cool, the best restaurant in your city, and if you want to stay updated, you sign up. So everybody is going after, I want your email address. I want your email address. Now things are changing a little bit for SMS because people are asking also for SMS, but email is still converting about 40 to 1. Every dollar you put on email, you can make $40 back. But like, what do you do if you don't have email address? Well, that's what you do. You look for what is in demand, and you see how that fits into your industry. If you're in the restaurant business, maybe that's where you should start looking. But you have opportunities to look for what is it that people want. And if people want information about this, then maybe you should start doing that. And it could be a landing page. But as you build this value, don't forget to ask people to stay in touch. I always say, every person that you come in contact with, you ask them to stay in touch. It's better they say no than you never ask. And just consistently doing that, I was able to, and this was all the way back in 2010, 2008. We were getting emails, like 2,500 emails every day. People are signing up for things because we sort of used a strategy where we had all these different landing page addressing all these different concerns that people are interested in, right? And people wanted to stay in touch. People love deals. People love retail deals. People love to save. You should know this if you're a marketer, that women are responsible for probably 60% of the household budgets, at least in America, right? So women spend a lot more in terms of their responsibility for shopping and buying, groceries, paying bills, etc. We see the uprise of just sort of women-owned businesses, and just really the attempt at really equalizing, creating equality among the genders in terms of pay. And so there's a lot of conversation happening around that. So if you can create anything of value that would help another female to be successful, or a female entrepreneur, if you can help her find what she's looking for and make her life easier, she's going to be willing to give you her contacts. And if 100 of her can do that every single day, before you know it, you have 2,000, 3,000 email. Now you have people that you can talk to. What do you now say to those people is a continuation of your messaging. Like, how did we first meet? If you met talking about the best kind of corporate suits to wear for your new job, or the best startups, wherever you go to talk about those things, it's kind of like you have to lean more into that, because that's how they found you. And they always say, and this is an example of just kind of off where they say, for married couples, when they're fighting, they always say, go back to the fundamental question: why did you get married in the first place? So it's kind of like, well, people are giving you their contacts and say, hey, here is my email address. I want to learn. I want to know more. And if you're struggling, go back to that. Like, why did they get, like, what happened? Why did someone just gave me their contacts and say, stay in touch with me, I want to hear from you? Why did they do that? What page were they on? How did they do it? And you lean into that. Go back to that basic, and you nurture. Nurturing is going to be key. And what you talk about, Valerie, on just these trends, this is all about nurturing. Like the way your email looks, using user-generated content. Like, how do I use a user-generated content and I haven't generated my first business? Well, maybe this is where you need to talk to other people. Maybe this is where you need to talk to other businesses. And if I were you, I would, and I have not generated any kind of income, and I need to maybe use a user-generated email, maybe I could just talk to someone who already has this kind of business and say, hey, can I actually introduce your business to the people that I have in my contact and say, hey, meet restaurant XYZ and also meet this foodie who is like amazing. Here's what they actually have to say about that restaurant. And a lot of times it's taking away that attention from yourself. When you put it on other people, you can use strategically user-generated content that benefits other people because you get the credit for it. Like it's what we're actually doing right now. I mean, we could have told you about email marketing for hours and hours, but we thought that, okay, why don't we bring Valerie in? Because there's a lot of stuff that we don't know, and there's a lot of stuff that Valerie knows that could really contribute. So taking the attention away from us and putting it onto someone else, you get the credit for that. So we love bringing people together, and that might be one thing to do if you're starting out. Like, look for opportunities to bring people together and to leverage people's expertise, right? Some of our mentors talk about leveraging, and one of the major component of leveraging, or one of the things that you should leverage, it's really expertise. Leverage talent and expertise, find those, get close to those. So that would be one of my advice. But that's how we did it. And we were able to generate all these email contacts across different things. And we asked people what they're interested in. That's another thing. Talk to people, send out surveys, right? Do quick surveys and ask. If you have a database already, 100, 200 people, ask them. You should ask them stuff, and you should be very, very intentional about asking, surveying your audience periodically to find out, how are we doing? Are we doing the right thing? Because a lot of times what you think is the thing is not the thing for the people who are reading your mails or who are connecting with your business. So you need to tune that up. And we always recommend you tune that up at least every 3 months, right? Ask, what can you do better? What's the challenges that you're actually having? One other cool trick that I like to use when I meet people for the first time, I ask them, so what's the biggest challenge you're facing today, right? And they will tell you. And I take mental notes, and then I can write about it, right? Because it's like, well, if these people that came to this event, if this one person, or I talked to 3-4 people and the challenges seems to be consistent, that's an idea right there to talk about. How could we have conversation about those challenges? Because who knows, there could be thousands or hundreds of people who are having the same thing. There's nothing new under the sun. Someone said that. And if everything is cycled, that means it's a science that if you have a problem with X, chances are there are a group of other people who are just like you, who are having the same problem. And it's really your challenge to find who they are and nurture them. So I think that's very, very important for you as you work on building your database, which is one, but also providing these the kind of content and the information that people want to lean into. And just as you say, Valerie, about just adhering to these trends, right? Don't ignore them, because this is really kind of what makes a great email a great email. So my question for you too, Valerie. So I follow a lot of these guys, and if you're on this call, you may have heard of Russell Brunson, and if you haven't heard of these names, look them up. If you're a marketer, if you do anything on email. And I always say to my team, why don't you go and spend about an hour, go sign up for a bunch of things, right? Sign up for a bunch of things that are out there, whether it's personal or for the business, I don't care, but just sign up for a bunch of things that interest you. See exactly what happens, because you're on your way to doing exactly that's been done to you. And if you can understand, okay, I sign up for Macy's, and Macy's is sending me an email immediately after I sign up, and they're sending me an email every other day. I sign up for Walmart, I sign up for this place or that place, I sign up for Russell Brown. Like, what is he? Look at what he's doing to you with email. And how do you adapt that? Because there's nothing wrong with coveting good gifts, right? And if he's doing it right, then you need to adopt that as well for your business, for whatever you are doing. So I'm going to drop some names, and if you've never heard of them, take a look at who they are. Start there. What I find amazing is, as I meet these people, they also drop names and I go and meet them as well. So you get this exponential sort of leverage. Again, it's leveraging experience, right? Because I meet Valerie and Valerie knows somebody and Valerie talks about that person, and then you get the chance to meet that person and that person talks about the other. Before you know it, within 3 months, you've met a lot of people. So Russell Brunson, and from meeting with Russell Brunson introduced me to people like Myron Golden, or introduced to people like Neil Patel, right? You get introduced to people like Gary Vee. If you've never heard of these guys, take a look at who they are. You hear people like Duct Tape Marketing, some of these guys who created the duct tape marketing concept. So you get to meet all these different people. Martech, this is another name. Martech, this is a big association for marketing technologies, and email is a marketing tool. So those are some of the folks that you can kind of lean into, right? But as you learn about them, Eric Sue, Eric Sue is one of Neil's colleagues, and they talk a lot about these different things from time to time, and you lean into this. So sometimes you may not get a chance to meet these guys personally, but you get to meet them on YouTube. You get to meet them online. I mean, they are talking to you literally behind the camera about these different subject matters, and that's how we learn. And so I would encourage you to do the same thing, and learn about them as well. And so one of the things that I've seen, and I've heard Neil does it, and I'd love to hear your take on it, which would be my last point, is say they just write an email. It's just a very friendly note. It's almost like a note. It's got no images in there. There's no visual. It's just like, hey Valerie, like, check this out. Like, I did this, that, and I want to do this, and I'd love to invite you, and just sign at the bottom. And it's like a simple note. How do you feel about that, as opposed to one of the trends that you talked about was just kind of design? And does all email have to be designed, and do they have to have dark modes? Or what are your thoughts about when is it appropriate to do one versus the other?
Yeah, I think just talking directly to a person I think you said this is for Neil, right? I'm not familiar with Neil, but I get the idea, I get the perception that this is a personality, right? So he probably has a huge social media following, probably a very successful YouTube channel, something that he's doing that's all about him. So it makes his audience feel like he's speaking directly to someone. For other businesses or retailers who don't have like a face of their company or a face of their business, they might have to lean more into the really attractive designs, the fun designs that's more interactive for the audience, because there's not one person that they can really look to in the same way that Neil is, or even a Gary Vee, right? Those guys have their businesses based solely off of their personalities. They're in front of the camera, they're interacting, they're giving you hard information that you can use and apply. And you think about a Target, we don't have like a Target spokesperson in general, or even Walmart. There's not one person who really speaks on behalf of Walmart. So yeah, they have to lean more into attractive design. That's my opinion.
No, that's a valid point. I think you're absolutely right. So you have to understand sort of who you are and sort of what your emails are representing, right? And I've never seen Walmart just kind of write a note like that. So Walmart's always kind of having these designs. So when you're thinking about big box retailers, Walmart, Target, and some of the other retail commerce, that you always kind of want it to look aesthetically pleasing. But then you think about someone like a Russell or a Neil, it's a quick note that they're sending to you, because this is really about them as a personal brand. I mean, if they don't write it, like, nobody else will. And so they really want to kind of quickly just kind of pour into you like that, because you already know for the most part who they are. So a quick note to you, they don't care about the design, they don't care about no images. And if they put images, it's just going to look, it's not going to have any design consideration or whatever, but they have these huge followings. So I think it's very relative. Is what we're saying to you who are listening is it's all contextual. So you've got to understand who you are. And I always say who you are is an idea of a problem that you probably are trying to solve, or a need that you're trying to meet. Whether it's who you are as your business or who you are as an individual. If you're going after a personal brand and you want to make an impact that way through a personal brand that you're creating, or you want to create a venture, a business that provides a service or a product, whichever route that you're going to take, it's really about solving a problem or meeting a need that exists. And I want to pay emphasis. I want you to highlight exist, because if the problem doesn't exist, you are creating a problem. And that problem is, it becomes harder for you to find people that you can sell or service using those solutions, because the problem did not exist. And you want to ensure that the problem exists, the need exists. And you know, we encourage people, do not create ideas in search of a problem, right? You find a problem and then you create an idea around that. And that's kind of how I started the conversation. If you're going to write a copy, if you're going to send an email, let it be around something that you know exists. Let it not be around you are in search of a problem, because that is a very long route to creating success, even in email marketing, right? You think about subject line, like you have no idea what's in the body of my email until you open it. And what will make you open my email is a subject line. And we've gone to ChatGPT and say, what are some of the best subject lines, which was very interesting, because it was just a test, just to see what are some of the subject line and you know, that the top subject lines that are out there. And they provided some examples of some of the top subject lines. And it's like, wow. So it's really just kind of using these kinds of little tools to help you. And I see the question of, how do you get people to sign up for emails without being salesy? And my response to that is add value. If you haven't met, and he always talks about, and maybe you remember the name, Valerie. I can't remember his name just now. His name was just in my head. But he talks a lot about adding value, and there he talks about 5 ways to add value, and that's, you look for ways to add value, you go out of your way to add value, you ask people how that you can add value, and you just really find ways to add value to a conversation, a topic, a person, and that's really how you get people drawn to you. Maxwell, his last name is Maxwell. I'm kind of running on empty here. John Maxwell. So John Maxwell is a name. If you haven't heard of John Maxwell, take a look at John Maxwell, and he talks a lot about how do you add value, and that's without being salesy. You don't have to sell something to get people into a community, to build a tribe. You really can just really add value. Look at us. I mean, we don't have a webinar of 9,000 people or 9 million people attending, but we have a few people here that we haven't sold you anything, but it's about adding value. We're giving you something that we feel is important to advance whatever it is that you are doing. It's the same way. It's the same way that you can do it to get people to sign up, adding value. Figure out, and even if you start with your community, wherever you live, even if you start with your community and you just ask around. There's a book that I like to read. It's called Talking to Humans. I think that's the name of it. And you can take a look at that. And it teaches you how to talk to at least 100 people for any ideas that you have. And if you don't have access to 100 people, start with 10, start with 2, but go outside of your family, go outside of your friends and talk to some strangers, right? Talk to humans and just kind of learn from them. What are some of the things that they're challenged with? And, you know, I go on places like Amazon and you look at the reviews, or you go on any retail site and you look at some of the reviews, you look at even advertisement on social media, and you look at the comments for some of these people. These are people talking back to you about the value that they want to be added to their lives. You go, I mean, and you know, we don't have enough time, but do this exercise. You go to any of these places, go to Amazon, which is the largest online retailer. Just take a look at trending products and look, you know, if it's a book, anything, and you see in the corner of that product page, they always tell you how many reviews is on there. Just go and break it down and just look at what people are saying. Just look at what people are saying. And I promise you, you will find in those reviews, you will find challenges. You will find things that you could potentially add value to. and you could gather 100 of those responses. Go to Facebook. The next time you see an ad that has been promoted at you, look at the comments for that ad, right? Maybe you can go to ads library, right? Maybe you can go to YouTube and look at the video. Like, you could do a lot of that. You could even go to Google and see some reviews of stuff, right? What is important to you in your community? And you see what people are saying, because people are not afraid of expressing themselves, especially when they're spending money. And this is how you can get them to sign up with you, by adding value, right? By adding value. Remember, the world never started out with 1 million or 3 million businesses. The world grew into that, right? In your community, in your country, you never started out with the number of businesses you have today. You grew into that. Why? Because for every business that's not solving or meeting a need, another one is created. And when you create another one, you create another problem, and so forth and so on. And so every solution, there's a problem. And for every problem that a solution is solved, another problem comes up just because you're solving that problem. And you keep going and you keep going. And before you know it, all kinds of business, it's always about what's that little thing that differentiates you from everybody else. And you look at the stories, right? You look at Apple versus Samsung versus, all these other phone guys or the retailers. Like, just think about those kinds of stuff. And I think that's what value is. How do you really make a difference in the lives of people? So I hope that was helpful. We are actually out of time, so we'll make a quick last round to you, Valerie, for any last recap or any last thing that you'd want to share with us.
Yeah, no, I think we covered a lot in this year, and I hope that everyone's successful in their own email marketing ventures, even if that means just sending your first email for your business, if that means even if you improve a little bit in terms of your copywriting for your email, or you experiment with a new GIF or a new logo in your email. Wishing you all the best of luck in email this year.
Awesome.
This was fun.
Awesome. This was fun. And I do also share the same hope that 2023 will see you doing more emails, more intentional emails, add more value in your email. Just pour value. It's what is value, right? If the thing was $1,000, would you actually give it to me for free? That's essentially value, right? It's what would people pay for that you can give to them and say, don't worry about it, right? And you'll see that in some of the names that we talked about, some of the resources that we gave you, you'll see value being added. And I hope you enjoyed this session. Please, or only ask is for you to follow us. Follow us on Eventbrite. We're on YouTube. We have a digital hub project, which is also on YouTube, called Digital Hub. You can follow there. I do a video every week. I talk about different items in digital marketing. We have a podcast. You can search for our podcast. It's called Marketing Tech Tools, which is on anywhere podcast is, or you can just search for my name, Ricardo Betis, and you'll be able to see my podcast. And I talk to a lot of different people who you're asking about that provides value as well. And I hope that will actually help. And I can't wait to hear from you guys in the next month, in the next quarter, this year, on how your emails are making a difference in the lives of people, how you're capturing more email address. Remember, don't forget, give every single person who you connect with this year an opportunity to stay connected. And if you do that, in a year from now, if you have not gotten any additional emails, I can actually say I'll give you everything I have. So I'll bank on that. If you do that, if you do what I just said to you, I guarantee you, if you give every person you come in contact with, meaning every person you meet, an opportunity to stay connected with you, and in a year from now, that you don't have any email address, you don't have any new connections, I'm telling you, like that, I will do whatever you say. I'll jump off Mount Everest or whatever you want. I'll do it, because I know that you're not going to come back with that. And that's going to make a big difference in your life. Start there, but we're here to help. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out to us. We hope to see you in our next webinar. So until next time, guys, thank you for those who came in support the recording is going to be dropped in YouTube, so you can look out for that. You'll get notice when the recording is available, so you can rewatch this. And I hope you enjoyed our session today, and you have a good afternoon and happy new year to you all.
Hi, everyone.